Just 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. I'm just getting a phone call. 1 minute.
All right, everybody, we are live. Madan, you need to you need to put your phone on mute right now. All right, everybody, we are live, and this is Philo Sapiens, the channel where religion meets reason. And I forgot to take this out, basically, but what we're going to do is we're going to review a few shorts and maybe take a few callers in who would like to join us and have a conversation. So what I'm going to do is, first thing first, I'll do the link. I'll make the link public right away. And thanks for those who waited to, to join us, or at least to see us go live, because as I said in our Hindi Urdu stream, that will be starting the stream. And as always, apologies that it took us a little bit more time than we thought we would take, but we had to discuss a few things as to what to do, basically, because I didn't have any. Martin has dropped out. Okay. All right.
Let's switch to Hindi Urdu again.
No, Martin is back. Martin,
he's back.
are you okay?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Anyways, you guys, welcome. How are you guys doing? Martin, especially how are you doing? Because I had a stream with Kali, so I know how Kali is doing. But how are you doing?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm all good.
All right.
Let's get onto the videos. I mean, I'm dying to crush some of these dawa heads. You know, I'm pretty sure they've got something.
Intellectually.
Yeah, no, more than intellectually. No, I'm pretty sure they've got something very stupid to say. So let's
slaughter them. You want to slaughter them intellectually.
Slaughter them intellectually, right? I think. Yeah, I think these remarks will not be taken kindly. I'm pretty sure by them.
I hope
even if we visit their streams, hey, you guys are like really mean. Or violent, rather, not even mean. You're violent.
Yeah. We're intellectually violent.
Intellectually violent, basically. But those are the kind of arguments they present to us that, I mean, can't do much about it. All right, so this is a conversation. I think it's a short clip between Mansoor and I don't know who, but you guys listen to it yourselves.
What about slaughtering animals? Like slaughtering animals for Eid, like lamb. Why do we kill animals?
God didn't just say, okay, you only eat vegetables. He gave us the biological makeup to consume meat. Our teeth, our digestive system.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with.
Your teeth.
They're not made to eat animals.
No, your teeth.
Yeah.
The enzymes in your body, they're all there to digest animal proteins.
No. Our bodies are not made to eat animals. And that I'm not contesting against Islam per se. I'm contesting it against
science.
Generally.
You're contesting against biology.
No.
Can you eat cement?
No.
Why not? The reason why we can digest meat and we can't digest cement, there's a reason for it.
Okay, tell me what it is.
Because of the biology, the makeup.
All right, guys. Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this and let's see. So the first thing first, I'll criticize this lady, whoever this vegan lady is, basically. I mean, her point that our bodies are not designed to consume meat. I don't think that's the right approach to go for it, basically. Because our ancestors were hunter-gatherers, and the way our bodies have evolved, they have evolved to consume meat, as well as we have now evolved ourselves to more towards eating grains and, you know, vegetarian food, pretty much, right? So our bodies are equipped to handle both kind of food, pretty much. So there is no such thing as, you know, our bodies can't handle meat or something like that. So that's one of the criticisms for the vegan lady, basically, from my side. But Mahadin, you take it over from here.
That was short. I'm laughing at the concision of your point for some reason. I don't know why I get the impression that there's like a kind of a charity stream almost, because I wasn't able to show up before. So if people are unaware, we were supposed to do an English stream today, but we ended up doing an Urdu one.
Come on, Martin.
Yeah, it feels like almost like an extended hand to Madin. He's not been here, so let's just be nice to him. The child who was left out.
I mean, your remark is.
Yeah, it's not just your birthday. When you go to a birthday party and a child starts crying because it's not your birthday. Okay, we'll cut the cake with you as well. It's your birthday as well. It's like that. That's what it seems like too. Anyway.
I'll let you be the torchbearer here.
Yeah. No, I mean everything you said is correct.
You don't realize how painful it was to leave that in the Urdu stream.
Was it? Sorry, say that again.
I said how painful it was to quit that Hindi Urdu stream. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just
I mean,
kidding, by the way. I'm just kidding.
I mean, it was a very good. The topic we had for the Urdu stream was quite good, I would say. It was we had a lot to say about, the video. So yeah, I mean, and I think we were almost done, but I'm not sure if were there any callers.
No, we didn't take. I did put up the link to our stream, but we didn't have any callers, and I realized that we didn't want to take any callers because we had to do this English stream.
Yeah.
And by the way, Mahadan, it's not just that we did it randomly, this Hindi Urdu stream and the next stream as English stream. Sometime like 10-12 hours ago or so, I had already this thought in my mind that we should try this kind of a thing sometime, basically. Just do an hour or an hour and a half Hindi Urdu stream.
Just do this charity stream for Mahadan.
Then do an English stream and then do a charity stream for. So yeah, it's good. But the only problem is we didn't have a good kind of clip, basically. So we just floundered there, basically. Anyway. So let's get back to this Mansoor's conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said regarding the evolution and our digestive system.
So I guess we are done then.
It's wrong to characterize.
Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, I know. It's wrong to characterize us as predominantly meat eaters or predominantly non-meat eaters. With a combination of both. We're omnivores. That's the classification, etc. So the woman is kind of wrong and so on. But also Mansoor, if he wants to suggest. But there's bigger reasons why Mansoor is wrong, right? Because Mansoor is committing the naturalistic fallacy. We have this particular adaptation, therefore it is right. So the question of right and wrong, question of justice, the question of what is moral is a separate question from what is natural. So even if we were, naturally orientated towards liking, enjoying, digesting, finding better meat, it wouldn't go from that you can make it'll be a non sequitur to say, therefore we ought to eat meat or something like that without more, right? Because clearly there's plenty of things that are natural. We have a natural urge to maybe fornicate and engage in sexual acts. But there's a framework, there's an ethical framework around it which kind of controls it, right? There might be a natural urge maybe to be biased or discriminatory, right? Some people say that it's ingrained in our DNA to find those who look different to us, to discriminate, have prejudices against, to block them out, etc. Not treat them in the same way that we would treat people of our own tribe. But that doesn't follow that we ought to therefore continue to do something like that or something, And there's plenty of things that are natural that we kind of fight against, right? So the naturalistic fallacy is that what is natural isn't necessarily what is correct, right? So that's one of the fundamental mistakes he's making, and the idea that we have teeth that are, and our digestive system. Let me just say the enzymes, the biological molecules and ingredients and mechanisms that help us digest meat are also the same enzymes that help you digest proteins in non-meat stuff, leaves and plants, etc. In other words, we don't have an enzyme specifically to digest meat enzymes, far as I'm aware, right? I've looked at the literature quite, I won't say thoroughly, but as much as I can. And there's no specific specialized enzyme that digests meat proteins, more so than any other. It's just
Right.
enzyme.
I think, Madan,
Yeah.
there is so the enzymes that digest, or the bile that your liver creates, if its acidity is higher, that is more tending towards, carnivores, basically, because they require higher acidity to digest the raw meat and stuff. Our biles are pretty much at the 4 pH level, basically, which means it is moderate. So it is tending towards what I said earlier, basically, right? As in, we are more of herbivores, but slight bit the remnants of our hunter-gatherer past is
Yeah.
reflected in the acidity of that bile, basically. Anyway, so
Yeah.
just wanted
And
to make this
just
little
to add
point.
to that, just to add to that, in our evolutionary story, kind of suggests that we needed kind of accessories or other instruments to help us digest meat. For example, cooking meat. So the invention of the ability to have fire, discovery of fire, let's say, and being able to use fire, led to, for example, our digestive system to change a little bit, simply because we many of the difficulties that we had digesting meat was circumvented by being able to cook it at the right temperatures, right? So it seems as though we kind of use the environmental architecture that we've devised through technologies to help us digest, as an accessory to help us digest meat, right? Whereas with many different types of plants, we don't need to do that. As you said, it kind of steers more towards, as you say, a herbivorous orientation rather than a fully carnivorous orientation, right? But then, and like I said, the enzymes, they can digest meat and they can digest. So we don't have any specialized. It's wrong to say we have specialized enzymes to digest meat. We have specialized enzymes to digest proteins, which encompasses both proteins in meat and non-meat products, etc. And finally, the idea of teeth. It's very disputed what our canines are actually for. We don't actually know, right, whether or not it was mainly for meat consumption. It might be a combination of all of these things, right? Some evolutionary psychologists say that our canines were for biting and fighting off predators and fighting other foes, etc. So we don't know necessarily whether it's actually for digesting meat or anything. Consuming meat or anything like that. Particularly because there are plenty of other species who have much bigger canines that are completely herbivorous. The gorilla, for example. Yeah, the gorilla has much bigger canines than us. The gorilla is not a meat eater. So you can't go from canine, therefore eat meat, right? Because then the gorillas have gone wrong then somewhat. Mansoor has just defied order, and we need to knock on the door for the gorillas and go, "Yo, bro, your teeth. Did you know it's for meat, not for all this stuff that you eat in these plants? You've gone wrong here, right? You've been designed to eat meat. No, that's a silly point, right? So to go from teeth to therefore you should eat meat." So the bigger point is it's a naturalistic fallacy. No, we're not adapted for meat eating per se. We're adapted for both, and we can do both. But the question of whether we should eat meat is it's a moral question, not just it's natural and therefore we should. I'll say another point in a minute, but I'll let Kylie make a contribution.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to add one, maybe 2 points. One, just adding on to what Mahadan was saying, and maybe just taking an example. You gave an example of gorilla. I'm just thinking of another scenario where a carnivore is actually basically an animal with even a digestive system of a carnivore actually survives and actually is living on herbs, and which is the case of pandas. Now, there are many things to criticize about pandas, maybe, but from a theistic perspective, they should not be able to criticize their diet, because it's not. I mean, we could criticize that their habit. From a scientific perspective, we could say that this is not the optimal diet, but that is what they're taking. I mean, because they can actually consume meat, but what they live on is bamboo primarily. But what I'm pointing out to is what I'm pointing to is the fact that despite them having this digestive system, even not only just teeth, canines, and all of these things, having the digestive system to actually, just like other bears, to be able to digest meat and yet choosing a herbivore diet. This means that, there should be, even from their perspective, if they can witness such examples in the environment, and their their argument, at least the argument that they're trying to build, doesn't stand, because we can find all sort of examples in the nature. So that would be one point that I'd like to raise. Another point is, and I think Mehadan has also once again pointed to that already, that if we can do something, wouldn't mean that that necessarily
we
we
must do
should
it.
be doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we should be doing it. There are so many things that we are actually capable of doing, but which even which Mansoor's religion wouldn't allow. In fact, it would be sort of a test for them, that maybe, from a religious perspective, one could argue that, this urge that we have, even being able to have this, maybe, for example, let's take alcohol. We're able to digest alcohol. um, I mean, from a digestive perspective, there's no concerns. But there are other things, the other issues which a Muslim would point towards, right? That, you should not drink because this and this reason. You should not do this, as you said. You mentioned fornication. We would be inclined, or we have that capability. But we, from a religious perspective, you would say that no, this is a test for us. These desires that are in us, they've been kept as a test, and our test is to actually fight against these. Now, this is, of course, an argument from a religious point of view. So I think even from that angle, you could argue that what Mansoor is trying to prove, from the fact that we are capable of eating, consuming, and digesting meat, we should conclude that we should eat meat. But doesn't this argument doesn't stand on its legs, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, we're capable of, like you said, exactly. We're capable of millions of things. I mean, we're capable,
Yeah.
to some extent, war. Going to conflict and war is a very
Exactly.
commonplace thing.
Of harming others, even harming others.
Harming others, exactly. But we view these acts through a moral sort of lens, based on maybe harm, based on maybe consequences, based on maybe other forms of moral equations, right? They kind of add as a form of intellectual barrier or safeguard, some sort of internal voice or something, or some sort of conscience, and then we develop law and order around it, etc. So whatever is natural, like an urge or a capability, we don't just execute it straight away. It doesn't go from we're capable, therefore we should. Again, it's the naturalistic fallacy. I think what Mansoor would probably want to say is that we have to eat meat for survival, which is a bit stronger of a point. Which, if that's what he wants to say, or what wants to say, or is meaning to have said in that conversation, by implying our digestive systems, you probably would say something like, we've been eating meat for this long, and all animals eat other animals, etc., and whatever. Obviously, that would be a silly point, because animals do a lot of things. For example, animals rape other animals, right? So we don't kind of model our behavior based on other animals.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that would be a completely silly point. And the question of whether we need to have meat has been significantly debunked by almost every single nutritional body, dietitians community around the world. You talk about New Zealand, you talk about Australia, you talk about Germany, you talk about Austria, you talk about France, Italy, the United Kingdom, United States. They've all collectively, jointly made a kind of a written statement. You can look this up online, written statement, a joint statement of all the specialists, academics, researchers, scientists, nutritionists, who are experts in the field, who know more about this than all of us. And they've all said that you can live a perfectly healthy, more than adequate life on a purely vegan or vegetarian diet, entirely, at all stages of life, whether you're pregnant, breastfeeding, post-birth, whether you're elderly, disabled, etc., because you can design a particular type of vegan diet. It doesn't mean you can just have chips all day long, Walker's crisps. You can just sit there eating vegan chocolate that won't be healthy, but that's for everything. That's for all diets, right? If you have a meat diet, if you sit there eating bacon all day long, that's not going to be very healthy. As long as you design it properly, you can get all the required nutritions, etc., without even supplements. I think that arguably maybe B12 tablets, vitamin tablets, but you can buy that from your local gym shop.
No, you can the seaweed has a heavy content of B12, by the way. Yeah. One more point, Madan, I wanted to make here was that if Mansoor's argument is that because God allows us to, right, and maybe correct me if I'm misquoting him, he did say somewhere that because we eat meat because God allows us to, right? And this takes them into really, what you call troubling territories, basically, because, and this is only a thought experiment. What if God allows something that your moral intuitions do not, don't consider to be moral, basically, right? Assaulting somebody physically or, sexually or whatever, right? If your God kind of, commanded that to you, they would say, no, God can't command those kind of things because those are, morally, God is moral. Now you're basically imposing your moral intuitions on a God that you have made up, basically. So now God is following your moral intuitions instead of you following God's moral decrees, pretty much, right? So you see that contradiction here, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that it takes them to a kind of very uncharted territories, basically, these kind of things, basically, because they at one time they are taking the divine command as kind of something that can't be immoral, but at the same time, if even if it's on a thought experiment basis, they would just say, no, this God can't command that thing. And this we have seen, Madan, and when we were, I think Kali and Madan both, you were there, when we discussed this slaughtering of Canaanites, basically. And when we said, okay, and this is not Mansoor or any Muslim apologist, this is Christian apologists, and one of the very big ones, basically, William Lane Craig. This is how these things corrupt your mind, basically. When it's Canaanite slaughter, William Lane Craig categorically says that because God commanded, so be it. And when you say, okay, but what if God commanded Hitler to slaughter Jews or kill Jews, basically? No, God can't command that and all those things. So this is kind of the contradictions that I see in theists about this subject, basically. Anyway, I think I moved a little too far on the other side. So let's get back to it. I think we are done with it. Or you guys want to add some more points to it?
I'll just quickly say also that we always correct upon our natural things as well. For example, if your eyesight declines and deteriorates, we use artificial interventions to improve upon it. We for example use secondary equipment in order to store intelligence, store memories, store information. For example, memory computers, for example, memory cards. Audio cassettes, or it used to be anyway, tapes, etc. We use pen and paper, for example, in order to. Well, there's always this relationship between artificial technological intervention and our nature. So, to some extent, if somebody's lost their voice, for example, they can entirely communicate in written form or through a computer or through some sort of audio, some sort of translator. I don't know what that machine is called, where you put it next to your throat and it helps you kind of accentuate your words. If you've lost your voice, your vocal cords are not working. In other words, we use instruments, we intervene into nature all the time, we change, transform. So where is this thing coming from where you can't, for example, intervene or interrupt our nature now to improve upon morally our behavior, our diets, right? If we can, if we do it for all those other stuff, then if there's a strong moral reason not to consume meat, particularly when it's far easier, and in terms of not meat eating and getting vegan food, especially in the industrialized world, it is far more easy. It just means just picking something else up in the supermarket, right? At such a low cost to us, right? Shifting our dietary patterns with minimal effort, we can have a tremendous impact upon on the animals. For example, I think every person throughout their lifetime eats about 4,000 organisms, 4,000 animals, like goats, chickens, pigs, cows, right, throughout their lifetime. Something like that, roughly. That number might not be exact, but it's in the thousands, right? And if each person is eating far less than that, if not entirely vegan, maybe at the age of 30 they realize they want to be a vegan. So the rest of their lives they don't. They may have half the amount of animals they eaten. So you could say, for example, by changing your dietary patterns, think about it this way. Imagine there are 2,000 cows in front of you, right? And there's a trolley, right? And there's a trolley problem, and you can just slam over the cows, or you shift the trolley to the left, which means that you're just going to eat vegan food for the rest of your life. It's a simple utilitarian exercise, right? And most people would probably say that rather than killing 2,000 cows or 4,000 cows, if you want to talk about it in a lifetime sense, it'll be better to shift the trolley to the left lane, where you just eat vegan food, right? You just have like noodles and vegan burgers and pasta or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that would be a better answer to that problem. And if people are not empathizing with cows, maybe let's change it a little bit. Let's put dogs there. Let's put cats there. Yeah, right.
Let's put your pet dogs, basically.
Yeah. Let's put your pet dogs there. Now what? Like if I go out now and kick a dog in the face, most people are going to probably be outraged. So clearly it's not right to do that. Now, if I go kick a cow in the face for no reason, for my pleasure, most people would not find that to be good. What if I now kick 4,000 cows in the face and each one subsequently dies after suffering? Well, people will say that's completely madness, right? So clearly our intuition suggests, therefore, that this is wrong. That for harming an animal for a pleasurable thing, because again, we don't need meat to survive. It's just a taste. It's just a taste. It's pleasure. It's sensual pleasure. What's the word I should think about?
Satiating our taste buds, basically.
Satiating our taste buds, exactly. What's the difference between satiating our taste buds and satiating maybe the psychopath's pleasure at kicking a cow in the face and enjoying it? Maybe taking a video recording of it so that he goes home and he gets some pleasure out of it. They're both kind of very base acts of pleasure that are not done for necessary or survival reasons, right? And we consider them wrong. So it does seem as though that we've got good reasons not to do that. And if that's the case, what's wrong with changing? What's wrong with having artificial means to do stuff? Because we do it anyway already. Does for example Mansoor not wear glasses if he needs to, or use a computer, or use a notepad to write his notes? Is he going to say, "Oh, I'm biologically hardwired to be able to memorize things in my brain"? Well, you are, but you're still using a damn computer, aren't you? Right, to help you, because when it's required, you do it. So in this situation, we have a moral requirement to stop eating meat, in which case we can use all these other means to do so and subvert or move away from our natural dispositions to do so. Yeah.
All right, Madan. Yeah, that's let's move on to one more clip, and I think in some sense this same vegan conversation is gonna extend further, basically, in this next clip, and let's see it too. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna present that screen here.
Sorry, just one point that I'd mention over here.
Sure. Kelly, go ahead.
See, One, I mean, there are levels of resistance, right, to this idea of not eating animals. And you see, the one problem in, and Mahadan has already sort of in a way explained, sort of tried to explain that, the resistance that we have towards changing our diet. There are good reasons to change our diet towards this direction. I think one big problem for Muslims to accept in this regard is that even if we tell them that, okay, all the concerns that you have, let's say dietary concerns, that maybe you'll not be able to get the minerals or vitamins that you need, or all the kinds of proteins that you need for your body, maybe, I mean, if that is one concern, okay, or any other concern in terms of, besides the concern that the animals is going to be harmed, if all of these concerns are addressed somehow through technology, then are you willing to accept that, okay, now I will not be murdering animals for going forward, because for whatever reason I was eating these animals, now those reasons do not exist anymore. I can get all of that through these alternative, maybe meat substitutes or whatever. But they cannot accept that, because they, in their religion, at least once a year, they have this obligation to slaughter animals. And that is the level of resistance, I think, that you cannot reason them out of. So what I'm trying to say over here is that there are levels of resistance towards this dietary change, and certain religions would have way more resistance than others, particularly the ones where there are explicit um, requirements to do something or to slaughter animals, as compared to the other religions where this isn't something, it is something allowed but not necessary.
All right. I was engaged in a conversation with James. So, James, if you want to join in, maybe you have asked a question. So maybe if you want, maybe you can join in and then ask the same question on the panel, basically on the screen. So as you can see, I have the link pinned as well, and you can. It's not too far up in the comments as well, so you can click on it and join. But I'll still highlight your question and see. So I think maybe if you don't come on, then probably we'll address this question. Until then, I think we'll go on with our next. Kelly, Madan, you want to make any other points, additional points? Or shall we?
Let's just get on the video, yeah.
Okay.
Many religions still practice animal sacrifice, an abomination to God. Animal sacrifice in order for consumption as food.
Sorry, I'm gonna reduce the speed a little bit, just because it's maybe even let it run on normal speed, basically, because it's just 1 minute clip or 44 seconds.
Not for sport. The lust, the bloodlust. If they do it for bloodlust, it's not Islam. I've never met any Muslim who says, I sacrifice an animal because of my bloodlust. It's become that. No, I don't think so. I think this is a misrepresentation, because if someone is doing it for the bloodlust, then these people are not following the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Are you a vegetarian? Yes. You are. Do you know how many living beings died because of the harvest? We could use the same argument, Millions of animals and insects die from harvesting crops. So if any vegetarian or vegan comes and tells us you guys kill animals, well, they should look at how many animals are killed for the consumption of their food.
All right, so I think this is why I think Hashim, I didn't find him to be really a smart cookie, to be quite honest. But I think he has to understand to have livestock for so much meat for the entire population of the world is creating much more damage to these creatures that you're saying are being killed basically in millions and millions due to crops, because you not only have to feed humans along with the cattle that you are putting in the these livestocks that you're raising, pretty much, right? Whether they be in free fields or they be in, some whatever. What do you call these, Madin? What is it called? Where they raise farmhouses, maybe animal farmhouses,
Factory
pretty much.
farms, factory farms.
Factory farm, animal farms, basically, right? So even there, they have to feed all these animals plenty of grains, basically. So you're not only producing grains and all this crops for humans, but you're also creating that for all these livestock. So I'm not quite sure that argument makes any sense to me. All right, Madan, you want to add something, or Kelly?
Yeah, no. I think you said it. It takes more crops, for example, to produce one maybe pound of meat, right? Than it takes to, for example, eat the crops directly. So in a cost benefit sort of sense, it makes more sense to reduce animal suffering and minimize deaths to eat the crops directly rather than harvesting the crops and then multiplying it, beyond measure to just raise the cattle and then eventually kill that cattle as well, or any other animal, for example. So in other words, in terms of cost benefit calculations, it makes more sense to be a vegan because whilst it's true that animals do die when you're getting crops, for example, you consume more crops when you're raising animals for factory farms. But there's a different aspect to it as well. The thing is, when it comes to factory farming, we're talking about the brutality. We're talking about the torture. We're talking about the imprisonment. We're talking about the starvation. We're talking about the complete neglect. We're talking about the fact that their lives from start to finish is almost like a gas chamber. In fact, for pigs, they through carbon dioxide they get suffocated to death, etc. Their lives tend to be completely horrendous, right? So there's that sort of visceral pain that you have to calculate as well, versus the killing of small animals like mice and other rodents, etc. in fields, etc. That might be different qualitatively. That's the second point. And also there are measures that are being in place and developed to kind of ensure that when you pick crops and you harvest these things, we kind of minimize the amount of animals that are killed as much as possible, using sirens, it'll never be perfect, but at least it's a more qualitatively different approach where in a slaughterhouse you directly and deliberately wantonly want to kill the animal, whereas when it comes to picking crops, what you could do is, for example, we try to devise means and measures to like giving off a siren, giving out a horn, so that we can make sure that as many animals as possible can leave the vicinity, right? Now, again, the distinction is not completely clear. It's not the case, obviously, when you're harvesting things that you're completely completely unaware of the fact that you're not killing some animals. So there is some degree of culpability there, right? But in terms of cost-benefit thing, it's better to do that, because the vegan approach isn't saying that thou shalt not kill any animals at all. We're trying to say what is the most practical, moral way of devising our lives and to minimize the amount of suffering as possible when we consume stuff. And the vegan approach tends to be better in a cost benefit after doing cost benefit assessment. Yeah.
And I think one other point would be, you see, what we're trying to reduce is suffering, mental, psychological, physical, right? And these kinds of suffering, based on our understanding, is what we're targeting initially, at least, is to reduce suffering in animals, and therefore animals who, at least from our understanding, don't have, at least maybe don't feel that level of suffering, or maybe don't have that sensory receptors at all. I think if such animals are actually harmed, then overall, as Mahadan has also pointed out, what we're trying to our aim is to minimize suffering as much as possible. So our targets initially at least would be to reduce the suffering of animals, at least the higher animals with higher functioning brains and sensory receptors, because they are the ones who feel, who have those feelings and sufferings, who feel pain, maybe of loss of their family, the process itself. So I think if we keep that in mind, I don't think it's difficult to sympathize with this cause of trying to minimize the overall suffering, despite not being able to achieve the absolute, and not being able to completely, bring it down to zero. Even if we're able to bring it down to maybe by 50%, 40%, 80, even 70, 60%, I think this is an effort that we should at least be ready to make.
Right, exactly. I think quite a few points that were missed by. Okay, we have one Appalachian. Am I pronouncing that name correctly, Madan or Kali? Correct me if I'm wrong. Appalachian lumberjack, and he's saying we are. I think I'll just read the comments. Madan, it's okay if I do that, and we'll get back to the
Yeah,
review.
go for it.
Even the Quran says Jesus is God. I don't know where he has read that. Okay.
Yeah, there's a verse. I mean,
There's a
there is a verse that Muslims interpret or translate it differently, but I am aware of the verse that this Christian is referring to.
okay. Oh, this is one of the least interesting intellectual stream I've ever seen. Also, you're just wrong about vegetarian shit. Okay, I think I asked him to come over and say what exactly is. That's a personal opinion, perfectly fine, but at least tell us why you disagree with us, right? Cattle deserves to eat and live too, right? I think that's what we are saying as well. But then the problem is you raise the cattle, and then you just terminate its life, right? And that's what we are saying, that it's probably for your taste buds. You want to make some living being, conscious being suffer, right? And that's the argument we are saying that we don't agree with, and at least reduce the suffering in that terms, basically, as long as it's for your taste. But maybe you'll find in yourself in a situation where you are in a jungle, and then you probably tried your every bit to survive, basically trying to find fruits or vegetables or leaves or anything, and you couldn't find. And maybe there is a case to be had that in that case probably you'll resort to killing whatever an animal, or and maybe at least I'm from my side, I can say that I'm open to that possibility, and that at that point, from a survival perspective, I'll have to do that, probably kill an animal. But unless I reach that stage, probably I'll say it's an unnecessary suffering just to have that taste bud experience, basically satiating my taste buds. Also, who are you to say that rats, mice are lesser life than pig, cow? I think I don't think anybody said that. When Madan said that rat and mice example, he said even those rats and mice are at least tried to be shooed away from getting killed in the agricultural land, basically. So efforts are made every which way to avoid any loss of life. But then there are controllables, and then there are uncontrollables, which you can't, And here you're doing the killing by yourself deliberately, basically, as Madan said. I think maybe I think we have the link open, and you can come and join and pose your questions, pose your objections. I don't think your
animal, no animal apparently runs away, right? Birds don't fly away, they all just stand there watching you. This is an idiotic comment. Nobody said every single animal will ever run away, move away. The point is, why can't we have nuance in the conversation? The point is, it's an attitude. For example, it's an attitude towards life where you try to have the most kind of a moral approach where you try to minimize suffering. So nobody said there's guarantees here. We already acknowledged, for example, there's going to be animals who are killed due to crop production or crop extraction, right? But that doesn't mean you don't take any measures, for example, to minimize as much as possible. The idea, so everything that I've said here, it wasn't black and white. I never said you blow a horn and every single animal leaves the field. I literally said in my statement, right, that you're going to kill some animals still. Therefore, acknowledging the fact that not all animals are going to go. So clearly, the person who's listening to this is listening to it through maybe like a broken device or something, or I mean, that's the nicest way to put it, right? But clearly, I said that some animals are going to be stayed. But the idea that his blanket statement that animals don't run from horns is the complete point of idiocy, right? You go into a forest where there's mice and you make some noise. Some will go, some won't. That's the whole point, right? So therefore, my point stands that some animals will go. And that's what we mean by trying to minimize suffering. Nobody's saying that all the animals will just vanish from the fields. Yeah, nobody said that at all.
Exactly. All right. Madan, we do not have anyone else wants to comment on it. But other than that, I don't think we have any. Shall we search for another short that we can review?
Guys, I'll be leaving.
Yeah, let me just say quickly something about this. It's so wrong in saying that I've grown up around. So this is an argument from anecdote, right? And we don't even know whether it's true or false. Yeah, whether it's representative or reflective of the greater whole, right? I can give you plenty of from all the way from empirical studies to investigations to more anecdotes. Let's say documentaries. Collection of views of exactly what happens in a slaughterhouse or what exactly happens in the life of an animal that's being factory farmed. It might be that case that some farms out there are different. Nobody's saying that, but on the great scale of things, no, animals don't live a fairy tale life where cows are just running around in happiness, complete serendipity, and enjoying everything. Absolutely not. If you want to go into an actual factory farm and check out the chickens and what they're like and what sort of conditions they are in, then you'll see. There's plenty of documentaries highlighting this. There's visual evidence. So if anybody's listening to this, don't just take somebody called Apple Chain Lumberjack word for it. Go and see it yourself. The visual evidence is there of exactly what happens.
I think he might have a farm, which is a free-ranging farm or whatever you call it, basically. And he's seeing from that lens probably, and I'll just be charitable with him on this basically, right? And you might find a few farms like that probably, but what we are criticizing here probably is more towards the factory farming basically, right? It's more of in general, probably even in the free-ranging farms, slaughtering has to be done basically, right? And there's no denying it. And forceful inseminations have to be done basically, and those things will maybe not in the free-ranging farms. Probably doesn't happen in free-ranging farms, but that's actually a thing in factory farms. You have to do all those things, the forceful inseminations, the slaughters, and all those things are real basically, right?
Yeah, just to clarify, these small, very, very funny farms that are an aberration from the norm, right? They're not very sustainable. They're not very commercial.
They're less than 10% anyways, Madan.
Yeah.
They produce less than 10% of the produce basically.
Yeah, they can't meet the supply and demand standards, expectations of society. This is why you have this kind of factory farm, conveyor belt farming, where things are kind of mass produced. Yeah, this kind of happy-go-lucky farms that you're talking about that you might see on a Disney Channel, right?
Right.
They're almost anonymous. They're so negligible you may not as well talk about them, right? The food that we eat from the supermarkets are not coming from those. It's coming from these conveyor belt farms, the factory farms, right? And in those situations, it is horrendous. Yeah, and what you were saying about, I mean, what's it called? Free range. When it comes, if you look at what the free range standards are, like even in the United Kingdom, for example, for free range, you're talking about a little bit more space, right? They're still trapped in cages. They're still inside a little barn. Yeah, there's still a lot of ammonia in the atmosphere. There's still being, we're talking about a little bit more square meter of space, right? And we call that free range. You need to go and see this for yourself and discover that legal provisions that require things to be free range isn't as good as it sounds. Free range doesn't mean a chicken is just walking around outside, unbothered, unaffected. It's not like that. Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
All right. I think, Kelly, you want to stay for another maybe 15 minutes, or you want to leave?
Yeah. I would leave now.
Okay. All right. All right.
I will take leave now.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
guys.
Then
See
I
you
think
in
we'll
the next stream.
close the stream as well, because we don't see any. I don't have any more shorts that we can, unless until somebody wants to join in and maybe have a conversation. Then I think we'll. Madan, what do you think? We should start thinking about closing the stream.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, because I don't see anybody joining unless until somebody joins in. I think we have few. I think I did already take these comments, but I'll take them again. Hamza is live. I think we haven't refuted him in his video in a long time, basically. About the oral tradition of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, I think we should take that up. But it's such a weak idea to talk about. I think, nobody takes, everybody takes them seriously, the oral traditions. But at the same time, it's like, how can you convince that somebody thinks that oral traditions are like at the same level as 1 + 1 = 2, right? Basically. So, if you talk to most of the Muslims, basically, right, they'll say that their epistemology is based on testimony, and it's as strong as 2 + 2 = 4, basically, right? And you just can't shake that, basically, because I think Madan and I did talk about it in one of our last English streams. The testimonies fall in the same category. I think this was when we were discussing the science in why science is not trustworthy, clip by Muslim Lantern, right? Muhammad Ali of Muslim Lantern. And he was saying that science is not trustworthy. And the point Madan and I made in that stream is that science, the testimony is the same. It follows the same pattern as inductive reasoning, pretty much, right? You have to have that faith in those, whoever the chain of narrations are coming from, basically, the isnad is coming from. Sanads are coming from wherever they are coming from. You have to trust, and you just assume that they can't be wrong, pretty much. That's the thing. So anyways, any Madan, Kali, do you guys want to add anything on that? Anyway,
No, nothing from my side.
And what really? Okay, Madan, you're handling these, right?
Yeah, so it's a useless destruction on a very subjective topic. Take a more objective topic. Well, this is if you believe, for example, if morality is merely subjective. If you think morality is entirely subjective, then go ahead. Even if morality is subjective, if you believe that, most people want to operate with some sort of practical ethics, right? And you live in, even if you believe morality is subjective, you want to have. I'm pretty sure you don't think killing a baby is merely just a impractical, useless topic. You probably don't think if like a murder that happens. Oh, this is just useless. I don't want to hear about it, right? If you think, for example, it's wrong to torture babies, it's wrong to rape a child, whether it's subjective or objective, you think it's wrong, then it's very useful to think about that further and then extend that same sort of courtesy If it's wrong to torture a child, would it be wrong to torture a dog? And if it's wrong to torture a dog, would it be wrong to torture a cow? If it's wrong to torture a cow, for example, would it be right to torture a cow to eat its meat? It's a very practical subject. For the cow, it's definitely very practical. For the dog, it's definitely very practical because it doesn't want to be killed. For the millions of cows and dogs or animals, pet dogs who are being brutalized right now, animal abuse, I'm pretty sure it's a very practical topic for human beings and so on, and the animals themselves.
I think east to west the journey. I think you are wrong in saying that. How can then you save insects, bacteria, microbes? I think there is a distinction that we are making. It's if we could, probably we could save every living thing, probably, but the hope here is, or at least the idea here is, to save, to have as less suffering as possible collectively, basically, on a utilitarian basis.
I mean, the point is silly because it's like the following: let's not save 500 children starving because we can't cure poverty. We can't solve world poverty, therefore we shouldn't save 500 children who are starving. We can't eliminate all forms of murders, so let's not stop this form of murder. We can't stop every single rape from happening, so why should we prosecute these rapists? It's silly. It's a silly point. Why does it come? Why is it in the topic of veganism, everyone becomes perfect, omniscient moralists? Like, if I can't do everything perfectly and solve every single problem for the,
then we shouldn't do this, right? At all, basically.
Do anything. It's a silly point. It's a silly moral.
It's a flawed logic, basically.
Yeah, we don't do that in any other sphere. And finally, bacteria, microbes. We're talking about sentient life. Right? We're not necessarily sure we're actually quite sure bacteria and microbes are probably not sentient. Insects, it's debatable. A lot of literature says they might be, they might not be. If it becomes the case, then maybe we would take more account of it. Look, we're going rapidly into the future. We have AI now. Is our diets going to look the same 100, 200, 300 years into the future? With technological progress, if we have our moral attitudes aligned properly, maybe we would be able to reduce even suffering for insects.
Yeah, I mean, even given at this point, we would love to not have them suffer, basically, right? I mean, you would feel for a cockroach that probably you are removing from your whatever kitchen or whatever, and it dies. You don't want that. Most of the people today probably would want to, safely escort that insect or whatever that is, pretty much, right? If you see, ant mount or whatever, ant hill, you would probably just won't go there and just romp your jeep over that ant hill. I mean, that's the kind of morality we are talking about. It's not that you'll do the controllables, basically. If it's in your control to save their lives, you do that. But at the same time, you want to bring down the suffering of the conscious animals because they are more close. They are closer to you, just as you would do for your own kins and closer relatives. So I mean, it's not just that. I think where you're going is really far fetched. And when you say that plants are also lives, probably yes, lives in a sense that is different. To what we understand about the sentient life of humans or animals, pretty much, right? So that's why there is a good reason that at least biologists don't take them in the animal part of animal kingdom, right? And one more thing, and it might be a very weak argument from my side at least, is
sorry guys, I'll just be leaving. So
sure,
just continue, please.
Kelly.
Okay?
All right.
Nice having you. Okay, bye.
All right. Talk to you then later. Bye-bye. So another point that I wanted to make here was that, plants, when you eat leaves out of a plant or eat a fruit out of a plant, the plant is benefiting from that eating of that fruit, basically, because you're helping it spread its own seeds onto the ground, because the seeds, humans can't digest seeds, basically, or even the leaves. It can regrow the leaves. I mean, nobody would have probably. I mean, it's still probably a moral question would still stand in front of you that, let's say, if the cows could grow their, limbs, probably. I mean, there would still be a question of, whether they give you the permission to cut their limbs for you to eat, because it could regrow it. Basically, that would be a different moral problem to solve. But here with the plants, at least with the fruits, they have the seeds which you can eat and spread there, and they're probably you're doing their work for them when you're eating the plant. So I think it's not. I don't think your objection stands here in terms of plants are also lives.
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah. I mean, every single biologist, every single philosopher, most have who's analyzed this would suggest, for example, plants. Just one moment. Plants do not feel pain. They're not sentient. They're not conscious. They don't have a conscious life. They don't think. They don't have desires. They don't really contemplate suffering. They don't feel pain like us, etc. All those fringe studies, they've been misquoted, taken out of context, misinterpreted. They're just bullshit, right? So those fringe studies, it's just not the consensus. They're fringe, right? The vast majority of studies show plants don't have a central nervous system. They don't have even a functional equivalent of a central nervous system. They don't feel painful stimuli or have nauseous experiences. That is the consensus right now. If we discover plants feel suffering, it will be groundbreaking news on the TVs, etc. Right? A broccoli doesn't feel pain. Even if it did, there's a big difference between killing a broccoli, boiling a broccoli, and throwing a cow into hot boiling water. There's a big difference. So we understand the moral difference. So even if it was the case, because remember, we're not actually saying, the vegan approach isn't saying don't eat anything and die. Nobody said that. Don't cause any suffering. That's not the point. The point is minimize suffering as much as you practically can, in the best way possible, right? If it turns out to be the case that plants feel pain and animals feel pain, it might still be better to eat a plant that, like a broccoli, than to kill cows, to kill pigs in these factory farms, right? It might still be better. So even if they did, which they don't, we have a significant evidence suggesting they don't. But even if they did, it doesn't make sense. But again, the point is it becomes crazy. It's like plants feel suffering, therefore we should just go around killing every other living organism. That doesn't make sense, right? A moral attitude is that we try to minimize or develop our moral systems in such a way that we do the best in the most humanitarian way possible. What's the best mathematical equations, calculations that help us, for example, reduce suffering as much as possible? Just because you can find out that this feels pain or this, we don't go, oh, since all these things can also feel pain, let's just go around willy-nilly killing all these other animals and cause even more pain. That's a silly idea.
Right, exactly. A few more comments. I think, Madhin, what we're going to do is we'll take comments from. I would request, what's the name of this commenter? East to West, the journey. I would request him to come join us and have a conversation, or else I think we're going to close the stream pretty soon.
Yeah. Maybe not right now. I think we planned that we're going to just talk for an hour, etc. So if
I think we'll just close the stream now.
Yeah. So but if you want to deal with these comments practically without industrial production of poultry and cattle, such huge world population cannot be fed.
I think that's a lie. I would say that's a. I don't know where you're getting that information from. I mean, industrial production of poultry and cattle. I'm not quite sure. I may not have the correct numbers, but in past 100 years, due to whatever genetic modifications and all those, the crop production has increased tenfold or so, pretty much, right? And which means we can sustain the 3 times the population that's present on Earth as of now, basically. But a majority of our crop production is going either to waste because we can't distribute it properly, we don't have the right channels to distribute those crops, or in factory farming, basically in feeding the cattle and for our food, basically. So that's why I'm saying we have enough plant-based food available for more than sufficient number of people, pretty much,
Yeah,
on
exactly.
planet Earth.
So far more crops are consumed to raise these animals than it is to, than is required to sustain our human sustenance. So it's absolutely false. But at the same time, if you want to use the word practically here, nobody in the right mind thinks that everyone's going to go vegan in a heartbeat, like tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? What it is like any other business industry. It's a slow, long-term phase out. Right? As the population of vegan consumers grow, the demand increases for vegan foods, and slowly but surely, as you march on, what happens is that it shifts. The meat industry shrinks, and the other industries blossom. Right? And this might be 100, 200, 300-year process, like any other industry. For example, how did mobiles get phased out slowly? Mobiles, old types of telephones, old mobiles, cellular, certain old school brick cellular mobiles, very, very slowly.
Pages.
Yeah. So of course, today it may look like that these industries dominate because they're the modus operandi, they're the status quo, right? But as we move to a different technology, just like any other industry, as it becomes outdated and outmoded, and as the supply and demand pressures shift economically, those industries will go away slowly, one by one, and that transition will lead to the elimination of factory farms and the replacement with vegan types of foods, etc. And as Philo has already said, we already have the quantities, available for that. But in reality, in practice, we're just not going to become vegan overnight. It's a slow burning process.
Right. All right, Madhin, so shall we start closing the stream? I think we have a few regulars, Mullah Islam, Tawba, Astaghfar, and I'll join you next stream. Okay? Sure. Yeah, I think we usually have very cordial conversations with our guests, so I hope you'll enjoy as well. And Bilal just joined. Hello, guys. How are you, Bilal? I think you just dropped in when we are about to close the stream. I'm not sure if you were there already or if you just joined in the stream. But anyways, we are about to close the stream. Madan, it was a good stream. I think we struggled to find a topic to talk about, and finally we picked this topic. But it was a good topic to talk about. I think we have had a few streams on it as well. So anybody who wants to see, I think we did maybe one. There's an Hindi Urdu, so maybe may not be there. An English only stream may not be there, as far as I remember. But yeah, this was a good one. If we can have one vegan only stream. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, for tuning in, and thanks to Madan and Kali. Madan, you want to have closing remark before we close the stream?
If anybody's interested in veganism or vegan ethics, it's you might want to read a little bit of Peter Singer, etc. And there's plenty of books on it as well. You may want to look at even Alex O'Connor. Maybe he's very good at introductory veganism, etc., and so on and so forth. So yeah. But other than that, yeah. Good night. Yep.
Yeah, I think I'll take just the east to west the journey. I'm not quite sure east to west the journey. Which are you a Christian or what is your basically background? So I was just wondering. And he's saying I can talk about concept of God, which I learned through my 40 years search. Basically, I became atheist at the age of 15 in Pakistan. Now I'm in USA. So you're saying you're a Muslim now? Or? or you're a Christian, you move toward Christianity. In any case, you can come in and drop by in our next stream, and we can talk about your concept of God and that topic. All right. So thanks everybody once again, and it was nice hosting this stream. All right. Ciao for now.